this session. So yeah, in this session, we're going to look at a few more tools. Last time we were looking at Postman, and we were looking at testing as a high level. What are the different modules that are involved? And we were also looking at front end, back end. What are the technologies that are involved there? And we also looked at some of the HTTP status codes, HTTP protocol like get, put, post, delete, and all those things. But this is more of a tools session. So we're going to look at JIRA. We're going to look at Jenkins, maybe GitHub. But yeah, these are some of the tools that we're going to look at today. So I want to start off with something called as JIRA. Okay, so JIRA, if you look at your resume, you might see we might have mentioned JIRA software in your resume. Okay, so what is JIRA? So any time you start working on a project, so you are assigned some work items, right? So maybe you are supposed to test a module X, Y, Z, and you are supposed to take certain steps in there and all that. Okay. So somebody has to give you a work ticket. Ticket in the sense, somebody has to assign you the work, and they have to describe what are the things that you're going to do in that particular work assignment. Okay. So all that is taken care by the JIRA. In the sense, JIRA is it's pretty much a ticketing system where you have a ticket specifically assigned to you. So there is a creator, there is an assignee. Assignee means pretty much the person who is working on the ticket. And then you can have multiple tickets because one person can work on multiple tickets, right? So one of the ticket is in progress. That means you're currently working. So some tickets might be closed. That means you already finished the work. So all that is taken care by this particular software, which is the JIRA software, and it runs on the browser. Okay, so you see it's running right now on one of the browsers here. And so I opened a dashboard. So this dashboard, let me remove. So this dashboard that you see here right now is one of. Yeah, if you guys have any questions, you can unmute and ask the question, or you can type it in the chat also. By the way, can you guys hear my voice okay? Because someone just said your voice is breaking. Okay, it's okay for others, I guess. Yeah, maybe Lakshmi, that's the issue may be on your side. Yeah, just check your internet. But yeah, so this software here, JIRA software, is the one that takes care of the ticketing system, and I'm going to show you what it looks like. Okay, it's pretty easy. I mean, it's just a ticket that got assigned to you. So we're going to look at a few things here. So this is a dashboard. That's how it looks like. Pretty much, there's a filtering. You can search for certain filters. But right now, let's not go into the dashboard as it is. But I want to show you something like this. Okay. So let's say your team has 3 people or 5 people. Okay. And everybody is working on certain things. Okay. So you can see on the top, there are quick filters. Okay. So this is one of the board. So every team, or nowadays almost all companies, are following something called as Agile and Scrum methodologies. Pretty much what it means is the work that is out there is divided into like particular sprints, sprint, or you can say weekly or 2-week schedules. So within those 2 weeks, you're supposed to do certain items, maybe 1 ticket or 2 tickets, or whatever the work that you're supposed to do within those 2 weeks. So somebody is going to assign you something. Okay. So within those 2 weeks, you will have like 2 tickets, 4 tickets, or 5 tickets, and so on. Okay. Your teammate might have whatever 3 tickets for him. Another teammate might have a few more tickets and all that. Okay. So all that is taken care in this dashboard that you're seeing right now, which is called as, I mean, in this case, it's called Kanban board, but it can be any board. Okay. So here, so this person here has all these work items assigned. Okay. So you can see there's a column for in progress. Okay. In progress means these are all the tickets that are in progress right now. And there's a dev testing. That means this is in testing phase. The work is complete and it's moved to the testing phase and so on. there's a beta testing. So you have different stages. Okay, so let's say from the developer's point of view, yeah, as we discussed in the last session, so you have the backend developers, and then you have the testers. Okay, so the developers are the one that are writing the software, and the testers are the one that is testing the software. Okay, in some cases, the developers can also do their own testing, but it's mostly the QA or the quality analyst who's going to verify, validate, and going to say, hey, this is okay. There are no bugs in there. Please proceed for production or client deployment. Okay. So once the quality analyst says this is good, that's when it's going to move to the next stage, which is exposing to the clients. Okay. So the quality analyst itself is an internal person. The software is not going to be deployed to the clients until the internal people are going to test it and validate it, right? So for the internal people, this is called as beta environment. So if you look at iPhone or so on, so they say it's in the beta stage right now. Okay, iPhone 14 may be in the beta stage. Beta means internally they are testing right now. It's not being released as of now, but the product is, there might be some bugs in there and all that. Okay, so beta means that it's not ready yet, but it is undergoing the testing phase right now. Okay, so the other one is prod, which is production. That means iPhone is being manufactured right now. Okay, that means production means it's exposed to the clients, and clients can access it. Clients can pretty much access your software, or if it's like iPhone, they can place an order, get the product and all that. Okay, so production means it's exposed to the clients. Beta means it is pretty much what the QA people are going to test. That's the beta environment. And then you have dev, which is the developers or development stage. That means the developers are still kind of developing, and at the same time they're testing their own software that they're developing. So that's the development stage. Okay, so you have the initial development stage, then it moves to the beta, and then it moves to the production. Okay, so if I have to put it in a notepad, hopefully you can see the notepad here. So initially it will be in the development stage. It will move to beta environment, and then it will move to production environment. Okay, so this is usually the software, how it moves from one stage to another stage. Okay, so let's say for this person, there are certain tickets that are in progress. That means still doing the research, or maybe still just started working on that. Okay, it's not complete yet. That is in progress. Okay, so dev testing means it is complete and the developer is doing his own testing. So that is the dev testing. So there are no tickets right now. And then you see beta testing. Yeah, beta testing means that it is being tested in the beta environment, and that is where the quality analysts are testing and so on. And then you have ready for rollout. That means there's a rollout phase that happens. Okay, so if I go back to this stage here, so you have development, right? So somebody has developed the software, and the developers are testing their own software. There's going to package in the sense there might be one Python file, there might be some configuration files, there might be some database schema changes. So there are many changes that happen when a software is changed. So all of them are packaged together. Okay, so you might package configuration files, you might package the Python code, all that into a single, like a zip file. Okay, think of it like a zip file, and this zip file is the one that is going to be deployed to other environments. Okay, so you don't want to deploy one file at a time, because let's say you have 22 files. If you copy one file at a time, there's a good chance that you're going to miss one of the file, and the code is not going to work properly, and so on. So what we do is we do package. We package the software as a single file. Okay, so if you go to internet, you say download Chrome or anything, you get only single file, right? So everything is packaged into a single file, and that file is the one that we're going to move to the next stage. Okay, so that is called a package, a software package. There are different tools to package your software. One of them is PIP, which is Python Package Manager, PIP. Okay, and there's another RPM package. You can look for RPM. RPM is pretty much it's kind of like a zip file. Okay, so it pretty much groups everything into one, and this one file is the one that's going to be deployed to other machines. Okay, and then you also have in Java you have jar files, but let's not go there. Okay, so think of these two as the main package managers. Okay, you can also do something like a Docker containers and all that. But for now, let's assume that there are some packages, package managers or packaging software that you can package all the files together and move to the next stage. Okay, so that is what it means. Ready for rollout. That means the package is ready to be rolled out. Just waiting for maybe the business to notify the clients that there are certain changes that are happening, so the clients won't be surprised that you just change the web page or maybe you change the product. So there might be some steps that you might have to take to notify the clients and all that. Okay, so that's the stage that software is going to be in. And then you have prod testing, or in the production, it's not really testing actually because it's already went out to the clients. So I would say this is more of confirming that no clients are complaining that something is broken or so on. Okay, so that's the one. And then you finally go to done stage, okay, deployment to other machines and so on. Okay, so here what happens is this, right? So when we move to production, okay, so production is where the clients are actually accessing your software, and there may be maybe let's say 100 machines out there, okay, or maybe 200 machines, who knows, okay. So there may be hundreds of machines. So when we deploy the software, we're not going to deploy to hundreds of machines at the same time. Okay, it's going to be divided into batches. Okay, so the first batch is going to maybe they call it a quad one. Okay, it may involve very few machines, like 5 machines. Okay, and once we deploy to those 5 machines, okay, so let's say we released a new package, which is version 1.2. Okay, so this is a new package. But we are not there yet. Okay, so let's say, okay, so let me write this out first. Okay, so quad one is 5 machines, and give me 1 second. So yeah, quad one is 5 machines, and so quad two might involve 15 machines. Okay, and quad three. Okay, so here, as you can see, the number of machines are increasing as you go to the next quad. Okay, so think of there are 100 machines out there. It's going to be divided into 4 batches. Okay, so let's say the very first time I want to deploy a new package, version 1.0, or let's say 1.2. Okay? So let's say I changed my software. I want to deploy my software. Okay, so this production machine might have, let's say, 100 machines. Okay, and this is how it is divided. So when I roll out the software version 1.2, I'm not going to roll out to all the 100 machines at the same time because this might have a bug. I mean, even though the QA person has tested it, there might be a small probability that there might be a bug in the code. Okay, so we're not going to roll out to all the clients, all the machines at the same time. Okay, so this is going to have version 1.2. The first time I'm only going to roll out to first quad, and this is still running version 1.1. This is still running on for 1.1. Okay, so once it is rolled out to quad one, we're going to let it sit there for 1 week or 2 weeks. Okay, so let's say it's sitting there for 1 week. Okay, no client has complained, which is good. We go to the next stage. We change that to 1.2, and we're going to let it sit there for another 1 week. Okay, so it's going to be rolled out in batches. Let's say there's a bug. That means something is not working as expected. Even though you tested it, everything is working fine. So let's say there's a bug in this package 1.2. Guess what happens? Only a few of your machines are affected. That means majority of the clients are still working fine. Okay, so your business is impacted. I would say, yeah, it's impacted very minimal impact. It's not going to have a major impact as such, because the clients, there are very few clients on these machines. Okay, but if you deploy to all the machines at the same time and you had a bug in that, then every client is affected. Okay, but because you're deploying it slowly for each quad at a time, um, if there is an issue, the clients would complain, and then you would know that there is an issue, and then you would be pretty much rolling back. So you'll be going back to 1.1, or maybe you're going to fix 1.2 and all that. Okay, so this is how it is rolled out. So let's say there's no bug. You go to the next stage, you change that to 1.2, and so on. Okay, so this is how it is rolled out to the production environment, and that's what you see here, deployment to other machines. Okay, that means it's in the rollout stage right now, and yeah, it is being deployed to the other next stages and so on. Okay, and then it goes to the done stage. Okay, but from a manager's point of view, let's say I'm a manager, I have 4 people working for me. I want to know who is working on what item. Okay, who is working on what. So this Jira software can tell him, give him a big picture. Okay, so this person now is working on these items. He finished this. This is going to the testing stage, the beta testing. These are in the production rollout. So it gives a very nice big picture. Okay. If I go to the next person, the same thing. He might be working on one ticket, 2 of them are complete, and so on. So it will give a bigger picture of what are the things that are going on there and so on. Okay. All right. So if I click on one of these items, so the way it looks is something like this. Okay. So this is one of the ticket that has this. So you have a description on the top which says remove this database and what are the related utilities from some library or something. Okay. So this is the main description of that ticket. Sorry, this is the main title of the ticket, and then you have a certain description. Okay. So you have this, and it says what are the steps that you need to do. It can be very elaborate in some cases. In some cases, it might be very small. So in this case, it's very small. It says these are the files to remove, and this is the library, and so on. Okay, so it's a description, and you have a title here and all that. Okay, so if you look on this side, so it says what's the I guess if you have any question, you can ask. And if you don't have any question, you can mute yourself. Maybe. All right. Okay. So this is the description, and this is the title, and this is the description. I'm going to come back to these things in a minute, but you can see on the right side, it says who is the reporter. That means who created this ticket. Okay, and there's a assignee. Assignee means who is working on these tickets. Okay, who is actually the owner of the ticket is assignee. Okay, so you can see this person created that ticket, and this person is working on the ticket. Okay, and then you can also see that this was created 6 days ago. It was updated 3 days ago and all that. Okay? And if you see on this details section here, you're going to see something called as a story. Okay, the type of the ticket is a story. Okay, so in Jira there are different type of tickets. So you have something like epics, you have spikes, you have stories, and all that. So I'm going to discuss a few things here. I just want to take 2 minutes. So let's say there's a major project that is coming out. Okay, so this is an epic. You can see the type is an epic here. Okay, and as you can see, this has multiple child tickets below that. Okay, so this gives you like a major project description, expressions within whatever certain product and all that. And then you have certain issues under this epic. That means think of epic as like a project level ticket. Okay, what is a project about and all that. And then that particular project might have 10 different child tickets. Okay, so these can be, you can have a spike or a story. Okay, epic is like a project. Okay? And epic has the spikes and stories. Okay, now what is a spike and what is a story? Okay, spike means, let's say if I open this guy. Okay, so this is a spike. Okay, so the type of this ticket is a spike. What does a spike mean? Spike means something like research item. Okay, so before you actually go and do something, you may want to research, you may want to figure out what you should do. Okay, how you should do it. So that research is called a spike. Okay, you can see it says investigate what are the changes required for certain things and all that. Okay, so forget about, I mean, don't concentrate on the titles, you may not understand. So this is a separate project I pulled out from somewhere else and so on. But yeah, so this says whenever you see spike, that means that's a research item. The person is going to look at, investigate, and figure out what are the things that needs to be done, how it has to be done, what are the technologies, and so on. So that is going to be a spike. Okay. So once a spike is complete, it's going to be story. Okay. So if I go back here, spikes are nothing but kind of like research items. Okay. And then you have story. Story is the actual work that you're going to do. Okay. So this is something like this. Okay. So this is the story. Okay. That means this is where the actual work is being done. Either you are testing it or either you are going to um, develop, write some software and all that. So that's going to be in the story ticket. Okay. And then in addition to that, there's also an effort estimate and all that. So in this particular project, there is no effort or estimate. But if I go here, click on this. Okay, so I was disconnected. Yeah, so I'm disconnected right now. Yeah, because once I connect to GoToMeeting, I have to disconnect from the other servers. Yeah, yeah. Okay. So anyway, so yeah, so this pretty much is JIRA is nothing but it's a ticketing system that tells you who is working on what, whether they are researching, whether they are actually working, what is the project, what is the status, and you can also have some comments and so on. So if a business person comes in and says, "Hey, I'm going to change this requirement," he can update he can put a comment, or he can say, "Hey, this is an additional file that I want you to look at." They can attach a file and all that. So you can have certain comments and all that. Okay, so JIRA is nothing but it's a ticketing system that um, that tells you what are the things that you are supposed to do. You can also look at other people tickets also. If you are curious what your teammate is working on, you can go to the JIRA. You can see what are the things that are assigned to him and figure out and all that. Okay. So as part of this agile methodologies, so you might have a daily meeting. A daily meeting is pretty much every day you're going to talk with your team members, discussing what are the things, what is the status of different tickets and all that. So this might be the board that might be brought up. Your name will be selected here. Your name will be selected here. And then you might have to say what are the things that you did. Yeah, it doesn't need to be very elaborate. You can say that, hey, I'm working on this. I'm waiting for this information from that person. Or you can even say, I started working on this. I'm going to continue to work on this. Awesome. So it's pretty much a short description that you are telling your team members that you are continuing to work on. Or if there is something blocking you, okay, that means you are waiting for someone to give you some information. You can discuss in the meeting, and the other person is going to say, "Hey, okay, I'm going to give it to you today or tomorrow or so on." Okay? So all these things you're going to discuss in the daily meeting. It's going to be for 10, 15 minutes or so on, and it's called a stand-up meeting. But yeah, this is how the JIRA, Agile, Scrum methodologies are going to work. But yeah, that's at a very high level. There are other things that I can talk about, but I don't want to overload you guys with a lot of information. Yeah, so this tool you're going to see in your resume that Yeah, JIRA is something that you are aware of, that you used this tool before. Okay. Any questions so far? Okay, so there are some questions here. So the no defect type ticket in JIRA. There is a defect type ticket. So there is a bug. Um, yeah, so I showed you finally things which is spikes stories. You can also have something like a bug fix, which means you released something to the beta environment or to the production environment, and it's not working as expected. So that can be something like a bug fix or a defect. Um, okay, so it's a defect tracker or so on. So that can be another ticket tag ticket. Okay, so different teams use different terminology. Some people might call it a bug fix, some people might call it a defect, and so on. So that can be another ticket type here. If they want to raise a defect, how do they do? Okay, so if they want to raise a ticket, it's pretty much that you're going to go here, and usually you can create a new ticket. Usually what I do is I do more and go to clone. Okay, when you say clone, it's going to get most of the information here. You see epic, what's the type of the ticket and all that, and I just have to present it as a small information, which is like what is the description, what is the title and all that, and that's all I need to do. Okay, so I'm going to cancel this for now. Yeah, but you can create a ticket simply by going here also, and you can say, oh here, sorry, on the top you see the create option. So when you click on this create option, you can actually create a new issue, bug. Yeah, I don't know whether you can see the tooltip there. It says you can create a new ticket, create a new issue and all that. Okay. So that's how you would create these tickets. Okay. So what are estimate points? Yeah, estimate points, nothing but how many days you're going to take to finish that work. Okay. So it doesn't need to be precise, but it's something that you want to stick around that time frame. So let's say you got a ticket to say 5 days, and you might take 4 days, you might take 6 days, but that's an approximate. Okay. It doesn't need to be exactly 5 days. Nobody can predict how much time that particular work item may take. But estimate points is pretty much, they might put estimate points like 4 or 5. That pretty much means 4 days or 5 days. Okay. Or it might be 1. 1 means 1 day. 1 point is equal to number of days. Okay. Or sorry. Yeah. Points are nothing but kind of days. Some people don't like to call it days, but points and days are very equivalent. Okay. So yeah, some people might say 2 points. That pretty much means 2 days. Okay. Or it can be 16 hours. Okay. So 2 points means 16 hours. Those 16 hours may mean you may do it across 2 weeks. Okay. So you might be working on other tickets. So it won't be finished in 2 days, but it will be for 16 hours. That's the estimate. Okay. Yeah, so that's a good question. So do we create issues or Scrum Master creates tickets? Yeah. So if it is a work item, that means if somebody is assigning you the work, mostly the product person or a Scrum Master, so they're going to create these tickets. Okay. But let's say you are a tester. Okay. So you're testing something and you found a bug. Bug means it's not working as expected. Okay. So in those cases, you have to report that it's not working as expected. So in that case, you will be creating a ticket. Okay, so you will create a defect or a bug fix, and then you'll assign it to someone to say, hey, take a look at this. And you also want to put some steps saying, I click this button. This is what I was expecting. This is what I see. This is not working as expected, and you're going to tell them to fix it. Okay, so that is how. Yeah, so in some cases you will be creating tickets for others, and in some cases you may be creating tickets for yourself. Okay, so you may go to a meeting and your manager says, hey, I want you to take a look at this. but he doesn't have time to create a ticket and give it to you. Okay, so you want to create a ticket for yourself because you want to track that work item. So yeah, so there may be some issues sometimes where you may create tickets for yourself, you may be creating tickets for others, or somebody might create a ticket and give it to you. Okay, so it can be anything there. Yeah, these are all good questions. If you yeah, okay. So is it completely management tool and defect tracking tool? Yep, exactly. So this is purely management and defect tracking tool. There's nothing special about this tool. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, don't be scared of all these acronyms like Agile, JIRA, and these things. These are all like pretty simple. Yeah, it's pretty much a ticketing system. It's for tracking and all this. Yeah. All right, guys. Any other questions? Yep. So can we import Excel sheet into JIRA? There might be some way to import it. I'm not sure. I mean, I never tried that actually. Uh, but when you say I want to create an Excel, import an Excel sheet, that means you already created these items outside of JIRA, and you want to import. There might be some option there, but I'm not sure. Yeah, because most of these companies are using JIRA tool now in companies. Yeah, most of the companies. Yeah, that is true. Almost all the companies are using JIRA. There are some companies, Rally. Rally is also very similar to JIRA, but for some reason, either JIRA is cheaper or whatever reason, yeah, many companies are using JIRA for their tools and all that. Yeah. Sorry, what is that? Attachments? I didn't understand. Okay, guys. So, um, yeah. So Rally is also very similar. I don't have access to Rally right now, but it is very similar to this. It's going to look exactly almost 90% similar to this. You're going to have details here. You're going to have ticket description there, ticket title description, and what are the status and all this. So this is an epic, but let me go to the story. Yeah, so this is Spike, but Rally also is very similar to this. It's almost like a carbon copy, almost. Yeah. So when I saw Rally, I was like, okay, so this looks pretty much like JIRA. Um, yeah. So somebody copied it and all that, but yeah, Rally looks very similar to this also. It's like you have a Google Doc of an Excel sheet and you have an Excel document. That's how similar they are. Okay? So Rally and JIRA are very similar. All right, guys. So I want to, yeah, any other questions, guys? So if you guys want to put Rally in your resume also, yeah, feel free to add it. But yeah, I would say 90% of the companies are using JIRA. Yeah, there is actually, okay, so the question is any way we can practice on JIRA, like a dummy version and all that, right? So yeah, so the JIRA company, the software company itself, internally uses JIRA also, okay? So if you want to create, so if you want to tell them that, hey, I see a bug there and all that, so you can also create ticket to them. But yeah, so the JIRA, so this is like a cycle kind of stuff. The JIRA software company uses JIRA as their own dashboard and software and all that. And they made it open or public so that you can also create a ticket and give it to them. But yeah, if you guys want to just experiment with that, you can actually do that. Um, yeah, so yeah, definitely you guys can look at this Apache, right? Apache is as you know, is a open source software company and all that. And yeah, so you can see the dashboard. So let me send you this link. So you can actually sign up also, sign up for an account. Maybe you can use the Gmail account or something. But yeah, let me go back here. JBoss has a Jira. Yeah. So sign up, create an account, and you can actually sign up for these dashboards, and then you can look at dashboards. You can click on this dashboards. You can see who is working on what. So I'm going to click on view system dashboard. Yeah, I think it needs, okay. So it does show me a few of the projects that are in progress. So I'm going to click on one of this. Yep. So you can see all these open issues, and you can see this person, Holden, reported this. Assignee is Craig Walls. This is the title. This is type is a bug and all that. But yeah, you can feel free to click on that. Let me give this. Yeah, feel free to create an account and try to play around with it. Okay. So I missed the Postman class. Can you please share me the records? Yeah. So by the way, guys, every session that I present, I usually record and then I upload it to the YouTube. I'm going to send you the YouTube channel link, or if one of you guys have that, paste it here. And yeah, so usually it's uploaded there. I don't want to send it to each one of you guys. So, but maybe if you check the channel after a day or two after the session, it is usually you will see it there. Okay. Yeah, yeah. For now, I'm going to send you the channel link, and you can see all the sessions that happened so far. Okay, you can see the Postman class, and before this session, there was another completely new batch. Sorry, old batch. Yeah, you can see those classes also. But yeah, I'll definitely send you the link afterwards. All right, so another question: what is zip hire? So let's see. Yeah, so there are many tools out there. QA tools for agile teams. Yeah, Smart Bear is one of the company. There's a test. Yeah, they have a product called as yeah, test management. That's correct. So test management is kind of like, I would say, QTP kind of a tool. You can do a recording, you can do playback, you can configure, you can change using JavaScript and all that. Sorry, a VB script also. So they support few things, but this is I would say, a paid product, and very few companies use these kind of tools. So I would say for now, ignore it unless the requirements say I need you to have this test management or Zephyr or any of these. I would say for now, ignore it. So these are all, I would say, there are many tools out there actually. The closed source, or I would say paid products. This is one of the tools. And one thing I noticed is as soon as it is paid product, very few companies use it. and the functionality is also very limited in those cases. Okay, so we're going to look at different tools like Apache JMeter, Postman. We're going to look at Python, some of the Python coding and all that. But yeah, so the other tools that are open source are used by majority of the companies because they can extend it. It has been well tested and everything. But yeah, there are many tools like this, Zephyr and so on. Personally, I don't know about this tool. I don't know in the sense I know there exists a tool, but I don't know the functionality or the different modules in there. We can definitely, I mean, we can talk individually about this tool if you guys are interested in this. Is JIRA open source to download? No, I don't think. No, JIRA is not open source to download. No. Because most of these companies strictly follow Agile and traditional. Yes, that's correct. Yep. Most of the companies follow Agile. Yeah, because Agile offers certain advantages because every day you are supposed to tell your status. So there is some tendency. Let's say a person is very laid back. Okay, he's not doing anything. From the company managers or management point of view, they know that, but they can't prove it and they can't increase the efficiency. But by doing Agile, you are supposed to say your status every day. Yesterday I did this. This is the output that I got, and so on. So you cannot say the same thing for, let's say, 5 days or 6 days, right? I mean, your team members will think, hey, this guy is bullshitting or this person is bullshitting and all that. Okay, so by using Agile, the company management usually notices a big difference in the productivity. So yeah, I would say many companies are using Agile and Scrum methodologies. If so, we have daily stand-up meetings, right? Yep, that's correct. Yeah, so you're gonna have daily stand-up meetings where we need to speak about our daily work and about our progress. Yeah, that's correct. Yep. So you would have to talk. So in the sense, these are like 5 to 10 minute meetings, depending on the number of people in the team. You want to talk maybe like 30 seconds or maybe even less than that, or maybe 1 minute max. Okay. So you're going to say, hey, I'm working on this ticket 859. So let's say this is the dashboard. Yep. So this is how it will be there. And you're going to say, hey, I'm working on 345. Yeah, I got this data from this. I have the database accessors. I'm still continuing to work on it. That's it. You're done. And then it goes to the next person. Okay, next person, whoever is there, and so on. Or you can even say, hey, I looked into this. I'm stuck on this because the product person said he's going to give me some data. I'm still waiting for him. So I moved to this item. I'm working on this. So yeah, that's it. So you're going to just give a brief summary of what are the things that you're doing there. Okay. It doesn't need to be very elaborate unless somebody comes in and says, okay, why do you need this info? Okay. Then you can say, okay, I need this because for me to log in, for me to test it, I would need that to verify and all that. So then you would go into a discussion there. Okay. But most of the times, 30 seconds is the max you would talk about. Because the whole meeting itself is set for like 5 minutes or 10 minutes or maybe 15 minutes. Let's say there are 10 people in the team, 15-minute meeting. That means every person is not going to talk for more than 1 minute. Yeah, so these meetings are only update about what we are doing, where we are. Yeah, that's it. That's it. Yeah, that's all the meeting is about. That's a daily meeting. Okay. So you might also have weekly meeting, weekly or bi-weekly meetings. This is where you might discuss more details. Okay. So if somebody is giving you this ticket, then they want to tell you that, hey, I want you to test these features. Let's say let's say you have Amazon.com. Okay? So let's say so you don't even know what is the new feature about. So let's say they introduced. I'm going to click on a random product. Okay. So let's say somebody introduced this fit. Okay, true to size. This is a new feature that they introduced, and they want you to test this. By the way, can you guys see the screen? I opened in a private window, which is incognito window. Okay, I think it's loading up. Yep. All right. Now I see. So yeah. So let's say that we have this new feature that is being released right now. So in the weekly technical meetings, this is where they're going to discuss about the things like, hey, this is a new feature. You have to load the product. You have to log into the page, or maybe you don't need to log into the page. Then you need to click on this small link over here. Then it's going to show a pop-up. And within that pop-up, you're going to see this kind of information. So that's a new feature. I want you to test the front end. I want you to test the back end. For the back end, this is the URL. So in the previous class, we talked about URLs, post, get, HTTP, and all that. So they're going to also say, hey, this is a post request, this is a get request, this is stored in this database, this is stored in this table. Yeah, so these are the kind of discussions that you will go in there. So before they assign the ticket, that's a weekly. So in the sense, let's say next week, they're going to start a new sprint. Next week, you're going to start working on one of the tickets here. So that, so if the next week you're going to start a new sprint, so this week you're going to have a weekly meeting, and they're going to say, hey, you are going to work on these items. This is how we introduce these new features. Do you have any questions? Okay. So they're gonna, if you have any questions like, okay, so what if the person is not logged in? What if the person is logging in from Asia or Europe? Are you gonna release this new feature? So if you have any questions, you can ask them. But yeah, so are we gonna test the performance? Are we gonna test only the functionality? Are we automating this? Yeah, so all these kind of discussions will happen in that weekly meeting. Okay, so once that is clarified, and once the sprint starts, you're going to work on that ticket and you're going to try to deliver that thing. Okay. Yeah, but the daily meetings are only about status. Yeah. Good. Any other questions, guys? All right. So that was JIRA, right? Now I want to talk about another tool called as Jenkins. Okay. So if you see, I'm able to grab some instance of a tool called as Jenkins. Okay, so you might see in your resume, there's a tool called Jenkins also. Okay, so Jenkins is nothing but let's say you write a test case, okay, and you want to run the test case every day, okay, because maybe the software changed, maybe the software didn't change, you don't know, okay, maybe something else. Let's say it is running on a website, or maybe it is running on a different server or somewhere else, and maybe somebody else changed something. Okay, so you want to test your features and make sure that it's working, still working fine. Okay, so let's take an example. Going back to the Amazon.com. Okay, so you're gonna click on this link. Okay, and then you're gonna verify this pop-up is loading up fine and all that, right? So let's say that somebody changed, instead of putting here, they put it at the bottom of the page. Okay? Instead of putting the link there, they put it at the bottom of the page, or maybe it's not displaying. The link is not displaying after like 1 month or 6 months. Okay, somebody made some change to the web page, and the link is no longer there. But you tested 6 months back, right? You haven't tested right now, but it's still a bug, right? So you have to. So once you write a test case, you want to run it every day, right? And how do you run it every day? You're not going to sit there and run it every day, right? So the Jenkins is one. It's a pretty much a scheduler. Okay, so you can say, hey, Jenkins, I want to run this test case every day, or you can even say every 6 hours, or you can say I want to run it every weekly and all that. Okay, so that's where this tool comes into the picture, which is nothing but a scheduler. Okay, so the Jenkins has a scheduler. It also has other notifications. Okay, so I'm going to talk about notifications later, but for now, let's go with the scheduler part. Okay, so you have some test cases that you want to test. Maybe your teammate might have another test cases. So you're going to group all of that into a single Jenkins job, and you're going to run that job every day, let's say midnight. Okay, why do you want to run midnight? Because very few people are logged in, your servers are less busy. So you want to test it during those times when there is less load on those machines. Okay, so usually Jenkins jobs all this run during nightly mode. Okay, so that's the scheduler part. I'm going to talk about how do you interact with this website, or yeah, so this is pretty much running from a web browser. Okay, you can see there is this is one of the link that I got. Yeah, so I picked up a random project. I'll try to find any public repository, public Jenkins build. If it is there, then I can send you the link. But yeah, I picked up a random job here, and you can see it's running every day. So you can see October 24th, it ran at around like 12 o'clock, October 23, October 22, and all this. Okay, and you can see the green. Green means it's ran successfully. Okay, so there are different steps that are involved there. One is checkout from source code management. That means it's getting the code. Build is running the test cases. It might be doing Java build or C++ build or whatever the build. Okay, and it's doing a publish. Publish is a software that is packaged and published and all that. But yeah, I mean Jenkins itself, it will do whatever you tell it to do. Okay, I mean it doesn't have any logic, so you have to tell it what to do. All it can do is it can run the job at that point in time. Okay, so Jenkins is a scheduler, but you are telling it what to do. Okay, so in this case, the job is scheduled to check out from source code manager, which is pretty much Git or GitHub. We're going to talk about that. It's doing a build, it's doing a software publish, and it's doing some cleanup and all those kind of stuff. Okay. So and it's running every day, as you can see, and it's running successfully. The green color means that it is running successfully. Okay. Now let me try to find another job that might be failing. I don't think I opened it. Let me go back here. Oh, okay. So I think I closed it. Okay. Okay, it got closed. Well, that's fine. Okay. Yeah, I cannot connect to it right now. Hold on 1 second. Okay, fine. But yeah, so to create a job here, I'm going to come back to the questions in a minute. So to create a job here, there are multiple ways. One is you can go to the dashboard and you can say, hey, I want you to run these commands. You can say, so let's say you have some commands. It can be so depending on what environment you are running this on. So if you're running this on a Linux machine, you can say, hey, I want you to run PyTest test cases, or you can even say, I want you to run this Python script or Selenium test cases or so on. So whatever the command to launch that particular test case, you would specify that command from the dashboard. Yeah, hopefully I should have opened it properly, but yeah, I don't have access to it right now, but it got disconnected. But yeah, dashboard pretty much has few options that says what time it has to run, what is the command that you want to run, and all those things. And you guys won't be creating this Jenkins job. I just want you to be familiar with it so that when somebody says, hey, can you go check the Jenkins logs to see if it is running properly? I don't want you to be blank face saying what is Jenkins and all that. So I just want you to give you an overview of what Jenkins is. And but yeah, so that's a scheduler that is running these jobs every day. And let's say if it is failing, you're going to see something like a red color, and you can click on logs, and that will tell you exactly what failed, why it failed, and all those things. Okay. So that is the scheduler part. Okay. Now there's another event notification. Notifications also can come to Jenkins. Okay. That means you can tell Jenkins or GitHub actually. So yeah, we haven't discussed about GitHub, but I just want to go to GitHub. So I just went to this github.com, which is the Miracle Solutions, a demo project. So I'm going to copy this, give it to you. It's a link here. But yeah, so let's say I have my code which is in the repository. Okay, that means let's say there are 5 people that are developing the software, and they want to. One guy is working on one piece, another person is working on another piece, and they're all working very collaboratively. Okay, that means they have to share the code from one person to another person and all that. Okay, so they're not going to share it from the files and all that. So they're going to share it through this tool called as github.com. This is a website. It's a public website, but um, internally, every company can run its own github.com. That means that company code is not going to be exposed outside. They have a local github.com. You will be connecting to local github.com and you will be pretty much interacting with that website. Okay, but every project will have a repository. So this is called as a repository. Okay, and this is a repository that has the code and all that. So here I do not have anything. I just have this readme.md1 file. But yeah, so this is where the developers are actually modifying the code. They're sharing the code among themselves and so on. And they're pushing the new code. I mean, they're pushing their changes into this repository. Okay. Now let's say that somebody changed the code. Okay. As soon as they change the code, you want to start testing that code because you don't want to wait for maybe end of the day to test that code. Because if something is failing right there, you can stop that code from proceeding further. Okay, so this github.com can provide a notifications. Okay, so if you can see, um, yeah, actions, right? So if I go to actions, okay, hold on a second. Yeah, there is some way to set up notifications so that github.com notifies. So I think this is a public github.com. That's why we don't see the option here. Yeah, I think, yeah, so this doesn't notify my server, but in your company, if you have a local github.com, you definitely can have notifications to your Jenkins. Okay, so this guy, as soon as the code is pushed out to this particular github.com, github.com can notify Jenkins. And what Jenkins does is Jenkins knows that for every repository, for every github.com repository, there's a corresponding job in the sense certain commands. Okay, so it will run those commands, and that's it. In the sense, if the commands succeed, that means the job succeeded. Okay, if the commands fail, then the job has failed. Okay, and then Jenkins notifies GitHub that whether this succeeded or it failed. Okay, so there is some communication that happens between GitHub and Jenkins. Okay? So let's say somebody is trying to change the code in GitHub.com. GitHub.com notifies Jenkins. Jenkins is going to run a bunch of commands. It's going to run a job. If it is success, Jenkins is going to tell GitHub, hey, everything is good. If it fails, then Jenkins is going to tell GitHub that, hey, this job failed and all that. Okay, so now GitHub.com says, hey, your job is failing. I cannot let you merge this code into the main branch. Okay, so we're going to talk about GitHub.com later. Uh, but yeah, so that as soon as a job fails, GitHub.com can prevent people from checking in or making bad code changes. Okay. Um, but yeah, so Jenkins offers two mechanisms. One is scheduler. That means every day around midnight or any time, you can run certain things. Or it can also work on notifications. Notifications means github.com can notify Jenkins. Jenkins is going to run a job. It's going to tell github.com what is the status of that job. Okay. Um, yeah, so that pretty much what a Jenkins at a very high level. You can also click on logs actually. So I should have opened a bunch of links on this left side, but let me go through this quickly, right? So this is, okay, so if you see this, so there are multiple jobs that ran, right? October 24th, 23rd and all this. So if I click on 911, well, happens to be 911. Okay, so if you click on that job 911, so this is one of the build that happened on October 24 around that time. And on the left side, you're going to see a bunch of options. One is console output. Okay, that means you ran a bunch of commands or job. What's the output of those commands? Okay, and you can see the same output as a plain text if you want to. Build information means what is the software build? Is it 1.2, 1.2.1? What are the build information you have and all that? Another thing that I should have left it open is a blue ocean. Blue ocean is nothing but it shows a nice graph. What are the steps that it succeeded? What are the steps it failed? But yeah, so these are some of the options. And you can also say restart or replay. Replay is pretty much that. Let's say the job failed because maybe the Jenkins server is not properly running, or maybe some issue on somewhere, but you just want to rerun the job to see if it is working fine right now. Okay, maybe the database server was down or something, some issue. But when you press replay here, it's going to rerun the job. Okay, if it succeeds, it's going to notify GitHub.com again saying that hey, everything is good now. But yeah, you have a replay option, which pretty much is reruns the entire job. Okay. Previous build, the previous version. But yeah, these are some of the options that Jenkins offers. Okay. Now, I don't think you will be asked to create Jenkins jobs because creating Jenkins jobs, there are two ways. One is going to the dashboard, and the other option is to write a Jenkins file. And Jenkins file usually you write using Groovy script, but yeah, I mean most of the times you set up a new Jenkins job only if you are setting up a new repository. Okay, that means a new repository or a new GitHub.com is set up only if you are going to work on a new project. I mean, completely new project that was never been there. And the very first time, you may not have a Jenkins job. Okay, so in those kind of cases, the Jenkins job is being set up. But most of the times, if you have a job, you can usually clone. There's an option to clone one of the existing jobs, and you can change the commands and all that. But yeah, there are many options to create the job. Dashboard, writing Jenkins files, or copying from an existing job. But yeah, so once, I would say when you get to that point, we can definitely look into the details. But for now, at a very high level, this is what the Jenkins offers. So this is also a very easy tool. All you need to do is check whether it is running successfully or not. You can configure what time you want to run it, but it is running from a website. Okay, so you do not have to write coding. I mean, there is some part. If you want to modify the commands that it is running, then you have to know what command to run. But that's a very minor, I would say, technical part. But most of the times you will be interacting with this website. Okay. All right. So let me go to the questions now. So regression testing data, regression testing test data. Also, we can schedule it in Jenkins and run whenever we want. Yeah, that's correct. Yeah. So Jenkins is pretty much it provides an environment that you can run your commands and all that. Okay. So let's say if I have a command line, I'm gonna open git bash, but yeah, you can open any commands. So okay. So even if I can open a command prompt, or I can go to the git bash also. Anything is fine. Okay. So here, let's say if I do ls, so that gives me some output, which is all the files in the directory. Okay. So this can be one of the commands. Okay. So I have ls command. Okay. So I'm also going to run top command, or not top, but let's say I want to run some Python command. So I'm going to say Python 3.7. Permission is denied. Okay. Fine. The Python command. Okay. So what are these? So if I want to run a few commands here, so the same way I'm running these commands here, I can run them inside the Jenkins. Okay, so if you have a regression testing data, regression test, and so on, if you know how to run that from your command line, you will know easily how to run that from your Jenkins also. Okay, so you might have test data in a file. You might have a command to run that test data. So you pretty much take that command, you put it in the Jenkins, you say, hey, run this every day. That's it. And yeah, it's gonna take care of scheduling that. It's gonna run that command. Now, how does it know whether it succeeded or not? Okay, so every command, whether it's Windows or Unix, Linux, every command when it runs, it gives you back a exit code or a return code. Okay. So I'm going to just say ls. Okay, ls means list the files. Okay, so I have the ls command here, and then I'm going to do echo $?. Okay, $? Here means what is the success or what is the return code of the previous command. Okay, and if I do that, it says 0 here. Hopefully, you guys can see the font here. Okay, I ran the ls command that gave me a bunch of list of files and all that, and then I ran the echo $? Okay, this means what is the output of the previous command. Okay, the output of the previous command is 0. That means 0 means success. Okay, that means there is no exit code, everything ran successfully or not. Okay, so if I run some command, let's say top command, it didn't find it. Okay, so I say echo $? It says 127. Okay, so you can see that for anything that is not 0, it means that's an error, and 127 indicates some error description, some file not found, command not found, and all that. Okay, so Jenkins knows that anything 0, after it runs a command, if it is 0, that means it's going to show up in the green color. But if it's not 0, it's going to show up in the red color. It's going to say there is an error and all that. Okay, so you don't have to explicitly tell Jenkins what does success mean, what does failure mean. It knows how to figure out that. Okay, so it's going to use this kind of tricks here. So it's going to run the command. It's going to look at the exit code. If the exit code happens to be 0, that means it's going to show in the green color. Everything is good. If the exit code happens to be non-zero, it knows that it's a failure and all that. Okay? But yeah, so if you know how to run from the command line, you can take the same command, you can give it to Jenkins, and you can tell it to run those commands. Right. Any questions, guys? Any other questions? Yeah, this is a very good question. If the build fails, who will get notified and who schedules the test and all that? Okay, so if the build fails, so there are two type of builds, right? One is the schedule build. That means you're running every day. So something like this, you're running every day. And when you schedule the job, when you create this job, there's an option to notify a certain number of people. So let me try to find a Jenkins. I'm trying to find is there a public Jenkins link. Yeah, the problem, I don't think I can find anything because the Jenkins has to run some commands, and most of these guys don't let you run your commands on their servers, right? I mean, you can run a delete command, you can delete a bunch of files and all that, or you can even consume their CPU, memory, disk space, and all that. So I don't think I can find a public Jenkins continuous integration or so on. But yeah, so yeah, if the build fails, who gets notified? So when we configure a new job, we can specify that who gets notified. So you can put individual names, or you can also put a email group. Okay, so most of the companies have email groups. So let's say your team has an email group. You can specify that group name there, and it will notify all the people in that group. Okay. So Jenkins is already connected to the email server and all that. So whoever is setting up Jenkins, not the Jenkins job, the website itself, they're going to configure the email server and all that. So we don't have to worry about how is it going to send the email and all that. But all you need to specify, you can specify a bunch of emails like individual team members, or you can also put a email group, and Jenkins is going to notify that email group, and everybody in the group is going to be notified. Okay. So that's part of the job setup. So that offers that option is provided in the dashboard and also in the Jenkins file itself. Okay, so that's how you get notified. And who schedules a test? Yeah, so if it is a new project, that's the first time you're setting up a Jenkins job. So that's when you decide what time it has to run every day. But most of the times the project is already existing. The Jenkins job is already existing. Maybe you're adding more test cases. Maybe there are 22 test cases. Maybe you're adding 2 more test cases and all that. So in those kind of cases, the Jenkins is already existing. It's already scheduled to run every day. But yeah, so if you, let's say that it's a new project, for some reason you are working on a new project. So who schedules a test? So it's something that is discussed within the team. With your team lead or maybe somebody else. But yeah, so it might come to you also, in the sense they might ask you, hey, can you change this job time? But it's pretty much, if you go to the dashboard, you're going to see an option of what time should this job be run, and that's how you would schedule this test. Okay. DevOps or tester? Yeah, it can. Most of the times, it's usually the DevOps people, but in some cases, it might be the testers also. Okay. You might be setting up your own Jenkins job. Okay. Yeah, so this is another tool that might be on your resume that says Jenkins and all that. But yeah, don't be scared of this tool. It's nothing but a scheduler, or you tell it to run few commands and it will run those commands. It will try to figure out whether they ran successfully or failed, and it's going to notify the email group. It's also going to notify github.com and all that. Okay. Yeah, so for schedule builds, it's going to notify in the email group or individual email developers. Individual emails that are listed in that job. But if the github.com is the one that is calling, notifying the Jenkins job is going to run. And let's say if it fails, it's going to notify github.com. It's not going to notify in the email group or anything. It's just going to notify the github.com that this is the status of the job. Any other questions, guys? So Jenkins is an open source tool. If you guys want, you can download and run it locally also. And the setup itself is complicated, because as I was talking, you have to set up the Jenkins email server, because it has to notify. The Jenkins also may have other agents that might have to run. So even though the Jenkins you see on the website, from the website, behind the scenes, you can see there are many machines that are connected to it. So when I run some commands, it is actually running on those machines. Okay. So most of these machines are offline here. That it shows up as offline, but you can see that there is some build IBM machine. This is build Linux machine, and so on. So there are different machines that. Let me increase the font here. So I wouldn't recommend you guys to download the Jenkins, run it locally, because it has to you have to go through a lot of configuration of this particular tool. And in the real world, you're not going to download and install, or you're not going to set up the Jenkins itself. You might set up a job in the Jenkins, but the Jenkins tool itself, you're not going to set it up. Okay, so that's an exercise that you may not have to go through. But yeah, I would say don't download and install Jenkins. That's a big software. All right, any other questions, guys? All right, so as you can see here, um, so you can see the branches, right? There's a master branch, there's a test underscore Jenkins, there's test underscore Jenkins underscore YT. So there are different branches here, right? So these branches correspond to, so if I go here to github.com, so there is something called as a branch here. Okay, so switch branches or tags. So if I say view all branches, there's only main branch. Okay, so if I go back, yeah, there's only main branch. But for every branch here corresponding to that, you're gonna see an entry here. Okay, so Jenkins knows how to talk with GitHub.com, and based on that, it can pull that information and and it's gonna run the job on every branch. Okay, so if you have a branch, master branch, it's gonna run that, and it says success. That means the last job that it ran successfully. Okay, and then you have test Jenkins YT, which is another branch that also ran successfully. Okay. You don't see a main branch here because this job doesn't correspond to that github.com. Okay, so that's a different github.com repository, and this Jenkins is running for a different repository. Okay, so these are the branches in that repository, and it's running those for every branch. Okay, so it's going to test every branch, and it's going to indicate whether it's a success or a failure and all that. Yeah, that's a good question. What's our job as a tester in Jenkins? Okay, so your job would be writing the test cases. And let's say there's a command in the Jenkins job to run some test cases. Okay, now you have created a new test case. You have to make sure that the new test case is also running as part of that test suite or a test package. Okay, so you would be looking at Jenkins, you would be saying, hey, I just added this new test case. Should I change any command? Most of the times, if it's part of the package, it will be running automatically. But in some cases, you might create a new file or might create something else, a library or a module and all that. So based on that, your command might change the way this particular test is being kicked off, started. So in those kind of cases, you might have to go to Jenkins and change the command. Okay, so that's part one. Part two is that, let's say that you have written two test cases. Your job would be to go to Jenkins to make sure that two test cases are running perfectly fine, at least for the initial phase. Initial means when they are rolling out a new feature, you want to make sure that those new features are not breaking the test case. Okay, so you would go to Jenkins. Maybe early in the morning when you log into your office, you might go to Jenkins and say, hey, yesterday night, did it succeed or did it fail? And let's say you work in a company for 6 months, you might have 20 test cases or 40 test cases. So you might go to Jenkins and say, hey, did all of them succeed fine? Did it fail? If it failed, you may want to investigate why it failed. but that will be your job as a tester when you are looking at Jenkins. So there'll be many jobs in Jenkins. Okay, so some of them are owned by you as a tester, and some of them are owned by developers. Okay, so the developers can do their own test cases also. So they might run some test cases. They might write some test cases. They might run those test cases, but that will be a different job. Okay, your job as a QA analyst or as a tester, you will have separate test cases. The developers will have separate test cases. They will be separated in the sense they will have their own job. You will have their own job. You will have your own job. Okay. But in some cases, some companies might say, hey, the developers may not be writing any test cases, but we want to rely on your test cases. So in some cases, they might use your job, but for sure, the testers are going to have a job in Jenkins. Okay. The developers may or may not have, but for testers, definitely they're going to have a job in Jenkins. Okay. All right, guys. So let's move on to the next topic, which is JMeter. Okay. So I want to talk about this tool, which is Apache JMeter. I want to send this link first. Yeah. So maybe I'll talk very briefly, and in the next session, I'm going to talk more into this. But yeah, so if you, so open that link and take like 2 minutes or 5 minutes to download that. Okay, so I'm gonna. Okay. I'm gonna download the zip file. Okay. Are you guys able to download this link? For me, it's giving an error. Okay, source binaries. All right, so that is 5.4. I'm going to download this real quick. Okay. Let me run this. So while I'm downloading and installing, maybe you guys can download and install also. Actually, there's nothing to install here. It's pretty much you download, unzip it, and you would start using it. Okay, so it's pretty. One thing is this JMeter requires Java to be running on your system because JMeter is built on top of Java, and so JMeter is one of the performance testing tool. It is very similar to Postman. Okay, Postman, you are running one test case, or in the sense you are sending one request, you are getting back one response. Okay, JMeter is also very similar in the sense you're going to specify the URL, you're going to specify your request body, and so on. But when you press run or submit or send or whatever, it's going to run maybe like 1,000 test cases. It's going to send thousands of requests, and it's going to compute the average. It's going to tell you, hey, it's taking 2 seconds for each request, or it may be taking 100 milliseconds for each request. So JMeter internally is going to send those many number of requests. It's going to track how much time it's taking. Is a server pretty much loaded or not? All those kind of statistics JMeter can report. But it's very similar. Yeah, not able to download. Same thing. I have the same issue. I'm going to send you this link. Yeah. So this JMeter tool is very. So maybe I'll continue in the next session on the JMeter. I just want to give you a high level picture. So if you guys remember in the Postman, we specify the URL, we specify the request body, and we will get a response, right? Apache JMeter is also very similar, and not just for sending request responses. It can do a lot of other things, but you can also test the performance of the backend using the JMeter. In the sense, you would still write, this is a URL, this is my request, this is my response, and when you press a send, it will actually send a bunch of requests. You can configure it. You can say send 10 requests every second, or you can say 100 requests every second. There is certain configuration that you can enter manually, and then based on that, it will send those many number of requests. You can say test it for 60 seconds. That means every second it's going to send 10 requests or 100 requests and all that. Okay. Yeah. So it will. Yeah, I'll try to see why the JMeter is not downloading and installing. But yeah, so it will look very similar to this. You can specify the URL. You would specify the body, header, and all that. So here we are doing a send of a single request, but in the JMeter case, you will also specify how many seconds, how many users, and all that to simulate, and it will send those many number of requests. Okay, and it also keep track of how much time it's taking for each request to process, get a response. Yeah, so I might. Yeah, so I'll give you elaborate steps on how to install this. So you would have to install Java, and you also need to install certain other libraries. So I'll send you all the brief steps. JDK, Java Development Kit, maybe, and you have to also set certain path. So I'll try to figure it out, and I'll send you the link to download. What are the things that you should be doing? But we will look at this in the next session. Okay. For now, I just want to take a break or stop here. I have some cold, and my voice is also not cooperating. So let's stop here. But I'll send you brief or elaborate steps here how to install JMeter, and we'll look at JMeter in the next class, and we'll also look at GitHub.com. So by the way, there's a GitHub.com. This is our dummy repository that I created. So you guys can go to this, and you can click on this code link. So there are two options here, HTTPS and SSH. You can choose any one of them, but go with HTTPS for now. Copy that link, okay, and go to gitbash.com, okay, and say git clone. So let me increase the font here. So you're going to say git clone, and you're going to give it the link, okay. So as soon as you hit enter, okay, fine, don't worry about it. I have certain configuration issue on this machine. I cannot connect to other things. But this is the command that you'll be running, git clone. So let me just paste it here. Okay. So when you run this command, what it does is it will get you this github.com code into your local repository, into your local directory. Okay. You can make changes, you can push it out. But for now, it's a starter. Okay. So this is a command to get code from github.com to your local computer. Okay. Yeah, so in the next session, we're going to look at github.com. We're going to look at JMeter. For github.com, you would need git bash, which I sent the link initially. So download this one, git bash, and install git bash. So this is a very useful tool. What happens is whenever you join a company, they're going to say, hey, here is github.com, go get the code. Okay. So you have to know how to get the code. The first command that I sent, git clone, is going to get the code. Okay. And to run that git command on Windows, you need git bash. Okay. On Unix and Linux, it's a different procedure. But yeah, so you would need that software, git bash, and using that, you would say git clone, and you can get the remote code into your local computer. Okay. So we're going to discuss more commands on the GitHub, and we're going to look at JMeter in the next session. Okay. All right. Any questions, guys? Okay, cool. So if no questions, then I'm going to stop here. And yeah, please do play around with that JIRA, the public JIRA that I sent. And yeah, fine. So Jenkins, next time, maybe if I have that Blue Ocean link open, I will show you. But it's nothing but it shows steps in a graphical format, saying this step succeeded, this step succeeded, this step failed, like a blue or red color, like a nice graph. But yeah, he's pretty much different stages, and it shows in a graphical format. Okay. All of this. So I'm gonna. Okay. So there are some other questions here. Is GitHub and Bitbucket are same type repositories? Pretty much same thing. Yep. So Bitbucket has some additional features, which has a nice integration with Jenkins. I mean, what happens is this, right? So if github.com fails, if Jenkins job fails, Jenkins notifies github.com, and github.com is going to pretty much um, not going to have any information other than saying that, hey, this job failed. Okay. So you have to go to Jenkins, you have to find out what job it ran, you have to see why it failed and all that. Okay. But Bitbucket, what it does is it offers some additional advantages. Like you don't have to go to Jenkins. You don't have to find what job it failed, why it failed, and all that. It's going to pull all that information and it's going to show in the Bitbucket website itself. So similar to GitHub, Bitbucket is another tool. But in the Bitbucket itself, it's going to have another tab that says all the options of Jenkins, like why it failed, why it succeeded. It's going to show up in there itself. So you don't have to go to Jenkins server, log in there, check certain other things. It's all in that same page. Okay, so there are some good things about Bitbucket, but yeah, some companies use Bitbucket, but majority of the companies just go with the plain GitHub.com. Okay, um, but yeah, those are some of the differences. All right, guys. So I'm gonna stop here, and you guys enjoy the rest of your weekend. Okay, take care. Good night, guys. Bye.